Well, good afternoon, everybody. Here we find ourselves in a slightly unusual position. Not as unusual as that hippopotamus, however, which is lying in a tiny little pool of water. And as I said yesterday when we were at Buffelshoek Dam looking at 3 or 4 hippopotamus in a kind of very marginal habitat type, so this hippo has now come into an extremely marginal habitat type simply because there is not much water around anymore. Even though we had some good soaking rain yesterday, has not filled up any of the big water holes. So you are with Wild Earth. This is Safari Live, a very live interactive sunset safari in the northeastern corner of magnificent South Africa. The Kruger National Park, western fringes thereof, on a little piece of it called Djuma, and to the west of us, Arathusa. My name is James. On camera we have Brian, and Brian is dressed in very summery weather, but if you look carefully just over the top of the hippopotamus, you will see a little bit of cloud starting to gather from the southeast, so he may regret the choice of his summery outfit. It is 25 degrees Celsius. I think that's about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. No, it's not, 74-ish degrees Fahrenheit, I think. Yes, I think that's what it is. It's amazing how long it's taken me to sort out those conversions. And on the other vehicle, and on his 2 feet as well, is Stefan Winterboer, the winter farmer. That's what Winterboer means. I would suggest you ask him where it comes from. I'm thoroughly confused why anyone would call themselves winter farmer. And with him, of course, Andrew Francis, aka Freddie Mercury. He's carrying the backpack, and what was a very slim physique is turning into something of a, muscular, godlike physique because of all the backpack carrying that Andrew is doing. So do greet him when you see them. Now, like I say, interactive completely. Hashtag Safari Live if you want to talk to us on the Twitter, like those oxpeckers over there which are tweeting away or more kind of buzzing. And questions at WildEarthTV if you want to talk to us on the email. Any questions, any comments that you might have are welcome, well, within reason, of course. But specifically related to the safari ideally, and we'd love to hear from you. So, we're going to spend a little bit of time with this hippo. I don't think he's going to do a great deal. I haven't moved very close to him, and there's a very good reason for that. Because habitat is marginal at the moment for things like hippo, it's not a good idea to get too close because they can become threatened, and then he'll get up and move, and he'll probably be even more uncomfortable than he is already. He'll go off into the sun and he won't have any water to lie next to. Hippos are desperate for water because they really, they get a sense of safety from it, and they're of course extremely sensitive to the sun. And that means that they need to have that water, otherwise they overheat, they have a really tough time. It's not a hot day at all, and there's a very cooling breeze. And we had a very dry season last year, not much water. That will have carried over to this season. So you won't really notice it in the first season. And Donna, you say you've never seen a hippo in this pan before and you've been watching a long time. Donna, that's perfectly understandable. Remember that we had a very dry season last year. That meant that the water table was low, and while it didn't make a huge difference in the pans, what it has meant is that as the dry season has progressed, so the water has probably dried up more than it might have during other years. So I suspect that's why we're starting to see 4 or 5 hippo in Buffelshoek Dam, despite the fact that it's only probably about 3 feet deep at its deepest point. And then in this funny little pan here, freshwater pan, here's this hippo. And we were just thinking, Brian and I, how interesting it would be if an elephant came down to have a drink, what would happen. And what I think would happen is that this hippo would move quite quickly and sort of go off in a huff into the bush. If something smaller came along, it might make a bit more of an effort to keep up the pans. So, I don't think we're going to spend too much longer here. Just to give you a little bit of an update on the lion situation, the Birmingham boys were found on Mala Mala today. That's well south of here. They continue to leave Djuma undefended, unmarked for territory, and I think it can't be long. If they don't come north soon, I don't think it's going to be too long before the Salatis come south from Buffelshoek and from Manyeleti only to find that this is completely unmarked territory. We've had rain, there won't be the smell of lion around. We've had the Salala Pride coming through here this morning. What we're going to do from here is head up basically to where we saw those 4 lions this morning. We had 3 the young males and 1 lioness. They were sitting up not too far from here on the Buffelshoek boundary. Then we're going to head across to Arathusa and see if we can't pick up something interesting there. If we can't, well, we're sure to find something lurking around a corner. This morning, of course, we had the highlights of the dice moth caterpillar. Now, if you weren't on the drive this morning, you missed out on a treat with a dice moth caterpillar that Steph found. They were the most beautiful little caterpillars. And then up to the other side of the scale, of course, we had an elephant and the lions, of course. So, lots and lots to see, lots and lots to expect. So here we go, and you are most welcome. Now, of course, our viewers are extremely astute, especially the ones that have been watching for a little while. And Barbara, you've noticed that hippo's back seemed to be scratched. So it looks like it's been gone over by a lawnmower. I can assure you that that is not what has happened. But you will find that hippos will now start to fight with each other. Just like with human beings or any other animal, when the resources are poor, when there's a dearth of resources, they will fight. I think this is a young bull. He's probably been chased out of a pod by a much older bull, and I think that's why he's got those scratches on his back. He's not in bad shape though, although, I'll tell you what, we saw a hippo here the other day. He came up, down, and he walked off away, and he was injured on the other side of his body, and I suspect this might be the same one. I don't want to threaten him, I don't want to make him move, so we're just going to do a little detour around him. He seems to be okay. I wonder if it's the same one. I don't think it is, you know. Wonderful update. Thank you from Rocky Knight. You say a hippo did come to the pan during the course of the day, had a drink there, and the hippo didn't even move. That tells me that it might be injured, you know. That's interesting. Maybe the elephant was particularly nice to him. We did have an elephant. Ooh, Brian, I think you can get that fellow. A beautiful batalier. It's really difficult to film them because we don't know where they're going to turn. He's going the other way, don't worry about it. No, here she comes. She's coming this way. Female batalier. Extremely difficult to film, especially when they don't move where you want them to. Beautiful bird, and one of the only birds that flies with such incredible grace in such a strong wind. The wind is blowing up there. Well done. Okay, on we go, and we'll have a few chats about the hippo as we move. And Eddie Abbey, you say that it looks like the hippo that had the injured leg the other day. Could well be, was around here. And the thing to be careful of course, is if we're going to walk around here, which we have been doing, you need to be very careful of hippo that are feeling threatened and out of the water. That's when a hippo is dangerous, because they feel very threatened when they're not in the water. And I suspect that elephant that came down to drink today was the same one that was around camp. Came right up, sort of almost into the camp. I'm going to try her now, Brian. She now disappears over the horizon. Sorry, same batalier, everybody. She's moving around all over the place, and every time Brian gets a camera on her, she gets shy. Beautiful. Yeah, lovely, graceful, floating, gliding flight. Oh. Sit and watch them all day long. Now, I've just received a massively interesting update from Mike, Jack and John, and all of you say that the Nkuhumas were seen with Junior today on Cheetah Plains. Now, I'm actually just going to get an update on the radio. That is fascinating to me. We're on a little WhatsApp group, and we're supposed to get those sorts of updates. But let me just find out exactly what the story is there. That is fascinating. I really thought Junior's days of being in that pride were over. So stand by, and let me just get a bit of an update quickly. Craig, do you copy, Craig? Craig or Andrew, do you copy Craig or Andrew? There we go. Good, thanks. Andrew, can you confirm Nkuhuma's on Cheetah Plains today? Copy that, and is the young male with them? Copy, thanks very much. So, Mike, Jack and John, not on Cheetah Plains, found by a Cheetah Plains ranger though, on Biffle's Hook, which is north of us, and Junior, everybody, is with them. Isn't that astonishing? So he's obviously come back home, he's feeling a little homesick. I don't think it's necessarily a good idea, well, except that those Birminghams are not around, so perhaps it is a good idea, perhaps he knows that. In fact, he would know that because they certainly haven't been calling around here for a while, and maybe he's snuck back home. He'll hang around with his family for a little bit longer. And of course that has positives and negatives. It's good for him because he will eat a lot more. It's not great for the pride because he will eat more than his share, because that's what the males do. And he's also been seen trying to mate with his mother and with a few sisters. So that's one of the advantages of having new males into an area and them chasing the existing males off. It's not a huge train smash for lions though. Right, so they are back in the area and very close to where the Solala pride was seen this morning. So how that dynamic's working is deeply confusing to me. We'll see over the course of the next few days, hopefully. From Schemmel about a conflict that occurred on Arathusa a few nights ago with 6 hyenas taking on the Solala pride, and the tailless lioness and one other lioness has not been seen since then. So that's quite interesting. I think that must have been the night that we had the rain, and so we didn't go out and across there. So fascinating. Thank you, Schemmel, for that. What's happened to them? They could have been killed, but it's highly unlikely that 6 hyenas would manage to kill 2 lionesses. I think it's more likely that they've just got separated, perhaps in the squabble, and that they're okay, and they'll rest up for a few days quite happily on their own. But I do know that these lionesses, the lioness and the 3 males, came across from Simbambili this morning. So you saw how they were running if you were with us this morning. They came across, and when we saw them, they were running along and looking over their shoulders. It's quite interesting to see what's happening. So maybe there was an injury to the tailless lioness and the other one. Thank you for that, Schemmel. Great update. So this is Mvubu Road, and Mvubu Road takes us straight up to the Buffelshoek cut line and the dam wall on which the Solala pride was resting up this morning. I'm rather hoping that maybe they came back further south, especially as the Nkuhuma pride, whose territory this is really, was on Buffelshoek today. Apparently, Donna, you've seen a picture of Junior and you say his mane is growing. I'm sure if it's anything like one of those Matimba males' manes, which it should be, because I'm sure one of them is his father, he's going to have a magnificent mane, and he's going to be a good-sized male lion if he lives to proper adulthood. I just think it's a bit of a pity that he didn't have any brothers that he could go off with. But I think he will be a large fellow, and he'll have a beautiful mane. His beard. What we did manage to do today, of course, or what I managed to do, was drive over some of the Solala Pride's dung. And well, as I've said before, nothing in the world smells worse than lion dung. And every so often, as the wheels turn, we get a whiff, Brian and I. And Brian is looking a bit green at the moment around the gills because of it. Sorry about that, Brian. Attempt not to do it again. Don't make any promises. Now, as many of you know, we have these two dam cams, the Djuma dam cam and the Arathusa dam cam, and many of you have commented on the fact that there's a very tiny hippo at the Arathusa dam cam. Marvellous news that, perhaps born recently. And Cecilia, you want to know, can they nurse underwater? They can nurse underwater apparently. I think they probably nurse on the ground as well, but they are apparently able to nurse underwater as well. Quite an adaptation. Right, we're nearing the area where those lions were seen this morning. I'm not sure that we will see them because they were looking like they might head north into Buffelshoek. It's been a nice warm day, really kind of perfect weather, to be honest. It's a chilly morning. Afternoon has proved very nice indeed. So let's just look carefully around here in the shade, under the trees, make sure that they haven't popped across during the course of today. Tracks of hyenas. So they were sitting on the dam wall just in front of us. I don't see them anywhere. Do you, Brian? See any lions? They've gone northeast of here. I've just got an update on the radio. They're just northeast of the dam wall. So that's northeast. They're just in the bushes there. So I'm afraid we're not going to see them. We can't go in there. What a pity. Okay. Let's pop across to Arathusa, see what's cutting there. Otherwise we'll come back. Keep an eye on the dam, dam cams, especially for that hippo. I'll be interested again if anything else comes down to drink, if it's prepared to share that water with them, or if it's not, I'm going to chase them off. The dogs were seen further south of us, apparently today, or yesterday evening, and so unfortunately I think we don't see them. It's been such a pleasure having them sort of around about here for the last little while. Certainly my favourite thing to be following around. So exciting. Even if they're not doing anything, they are doing something. Quite unlike their lion friends. Concerned viewer called Jack wanting to know what is up with Rusty and Wendy, and what is the prognosis on their ill health. Rusty today was fixed by the magnificent Opar, who is the mechanic at Djuma, and so Rusty's almost good to go. We just got to do one or two electrical things on her, but that's no problem. But instead of taking her out this afternoon, Steph is going to do another walk, which I think is just a great idea. So ideally we're going to do one walk and one drive, and then when there are more of us on site, we'll probably do 2 driving or walking. So Rusty's okay. Wendy is in hospital, having some form of transplant. She's off in Hoedspruit. She was taken there this morning, and we hope fervently for her safe return in good health. At the moment we have no word from the mechanics as to what her problem is, other than age, of course. An excellent query from Joyce about Junior and his possible prospects and those of the Salalas. Could Junior form a coalition with those 3 Salala males? So Junior's about 3.5 now, and those Salalas are probably about a year and a bit younger than him. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Especially if those Birminghams come back and they chase those young males away. They're a little bit young to be leaving the pride, but they could go now. And especially if there's pressure from those males, it's possible. Yeah, that would be great. And I've certainly seen when the Mapocho came into this area, there were 5 young males, and they had a 6th initially. And he was older, he didn't look anything like them, other than the fact that he looked like a lion. But he certainly was very differently coloured, and he had a very different looking face. He had a longer snout, and he eventually disappeared. And he was older than the 5 of them. And I think absolutely it's possible for them to meet, to come together. So they don't have to be the same age, they just have to be nomadic and not territorial yet by the time they meet up. Good thought, Joyce. Wouldn't that be nice? That would be lovely if they formed a coalition. But they should ideally need to go off somewhere else, because we don't want them hanging around here in the area where they were born, because obviously they're very closely related to many of the lions of this area. So while it would be nice to watch Junior and the Salala Pride males in a kind of coalition, I think it would be better for the lion population if they went somewhere else. Heading due west now along the Biffleshoek cut line. We'll head down a road here past an area called Sandy Patch, which is a bit open. See what we can see there, and then hopefully onto Arathusa. We'll get a quick update on Arathusa. There's not a lot going on. Brian feeling that something exciting was going to happen at Biffleshoek Dam today. One doesn't take these announcements too lightly. It does have that kind of success. So we're going to pop over there and just come far east. Camp. Because this water will dry out, and so the competition will become much greater. We'll just have a quick look down towards the dam, and we'll head south. There's an elephant there. You see the elephant? And look at all those hippo. That's quite interesting. So there is an elephant, but he's way in the distance. I don't think we'll get him, to be honest. He's walking off. But you can see, how many hippos do you think you can see? See if you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's a lot of hippopotamus. Gee whiz.
I can get that lead.
That is fascinating. We've got the elephant. Ah, good. There's the elephant disappearing. And while we watch the elephant, as he walks north into what will soon become the Manyeleti, if he keeps going in that direction, lovely green, verdant bushveld that he's going into there. Teresa, you want to know, are hippos born in the water? Teresa, they can be born in the water. I don't believe they always are, though. I've certainly seen a very newborn calf outside of the water, so I think they can be born in water, but they certainly are not always. That is an astonishing raft of hippopotamus, and you can see now, I mean, they're out the water because it hasn't been a very hot day and they're enjoying just some sunbathing, but they've got that space there, and you will find, I think, that this dam has probably reduced in size by at least a third, possibly even more, over the last 2 or 3 months. And what that means is that the bulls, the dominant bull, there will be one dominant bull in that raft, will not tolerate the presence of any other kind of testosterone charged other bulls, especially if they're young bulls, young pretenders to his throne and his harem. And I suspect that's why we're seeing these sort of other small pods around the place, and that young bull who is, well, I wouldn't say in distress, but possibly coming for distress, lying in that puddle just outside Djuma Dam. Right, let's go straight across to Stefan. I'm going to get out of this slightly dodgy signal area. I'm sure he will tell you something fascinating, as he always does, and I'll see you on the other side of that.
Well, good afternoon from myself, Stefan Winterboer, and Andrew Francis on the bushwalk, the sunset bushwalk this afternoon. We've come into quite a special area for me. It's been an area of interest for the last couple of weeks. When we were trialing out and trying to troubleshoot some of the issues around this backpack, Scott and Andrew managed to bump into a greater cane rat's nest. And I've come here this afternoon to try and get it on film. Me personally, I've never ever seen a greater cane rat, let alone a greater cane rat nest, and it is something that has been drawing me to this place for the last couple of days, and we just haven't had a chance to get to this part of the reserve. We are in the far south of the reserve on a west facing slope, and signal seems good, so we're going to have a good afternoon, hopefully holding thumbs, of signal on the bushwalk. And for those of you who are new to the bushwalk, we are walking around in the bush with nothing and nobody close. We've got no vehicle close by, we've got no support crew close by. It's literally just Andrew and myself and a backpack, and we are walking around in the bush unaided. Now, because of that, I do carry a rifle. The rifle is sitting right here. It's essentially just a piece of safety equipment that I've been using for many years, and literally it's just here as a last ditch item in case something goes terribly wrong here in the thick bush. We're not expecting it to. My aim is not to pick a fight here today, but yeah. I see a black cuckoo's busy calling in the distance. They've just come back literally 4 or 5 days ago. Got the most amazing caller. I'm so sad call, and a very difficult cuckoo to actually see, to be honest. The last time I saw one, maybe once or twice a season you actually get to see them. We'll see if we can get you a view of him. You can notice by the sweat that's on my brow at the moment that it's been quite a toasty day. The clouds that were scudding across the sky this morning have burned off, and we're probably sitting around about 30 degrees at the moment, which for a walk is a little bit hot, but it does mean that when we're walking we're going to be looking in the shade for things that are lying up in the shade. The shade at the moment is lying on the eastern side of the trees, and that is exactly the places that I'm going to be concentrating on as I walk through the bush. So let's go and let's see what we can see. Hi Susie, you asked me where an Ellie bull is at the moment. I've got a good question. I've been looking for that bull. It chased James and I around this afternoon after we finished an exercise session. We had to make a two-step away from him, a jump to the left and a swing to the right, or whatever they say, to try and get away from that Ellie. Myself and Andrew went to go and have a look for him this afternoon, and we don't know where he went. We think he went into the thick bush on the northern side of our camp, and we don't have signal in there, so we weren't going to go in there. We'll wait for him to come out again, go and look for him then. Not to say that we're not going to find Ellies here. I don't actually want to walk up onto the crest where we are now. These monkey thorn thickets that we find on the crests here are not the most nutritious places that offer the most shade for elephant. In actual fact, it's going to be quite hot walking here. So I'm going to just look to get through this thicket, and then we're going to be heading downhill a bit. And I'm going to move this away so that Andrew can actually get around it. We've got an aerial on the back. Come and have a look at this apple leaf. We're obviously on an elephant path here, and I'll show you some sign of some elephant in a second. Here we have some relatively fresh sign of some elephant. You can see down here on the floor, this elephant dung is still fairly wet on the inside, but was made a couple of days ago. Nothing too much to worry about. But what's interesting here is the fact that this apple leaf was used as a scratching post. And this will give you an idea of how much bigger an elephant is than me. I stand 6 foot, I think 6 foot 1 inch, I think, tall. So I'm 6 foot 1 inch, and the back of this elephant was rubbing over there. Have a look at there. You can see it from the discoloration. The sand is actually falling off of this. And this Ellie came and rested in the shade and had a good scratch. And I mean, have a look at that. That's where his back is. You can have a look at the sand that's coming off. Let me rub it for you so that you can see it falling. That's not the bark of the tree, that's actually the sand that was stuck to the elephant's hide. And that gives me an interesting thought. When was this made? Which is a good question. Now I'm gathering that we had rain here, was the rain yesterday, Andrew? We had rain yesterday and it started the day before. And judging from this dung and the sand, I would say that this was probably made yesterday afternoon, yesterday morning sometime. Just wet enough for the mud on the elephant's back to get wet but not wash off. And him having a good on scratch to leave some of that sand behind with enough moisture in it to stick it to the tree. So it tells me that it was probably not at the end of the rain, at the beginning of the rain, sometime yesterday morning. Alrighty, let's carry on. The type of bush that we're walking through here is called combretum woodland. And it's because there is so much combretum around. This is a combretum. This is a combretum, that's a combretum, that's a combretum, that's a combretum, that's a combretum. This is an acacia. They've now got a new name. I don't actually know what it is. The Australians have stolen the word acacia, and we now call acacia something else. And it is bad of me that I haven't learnt it, to be honest. Verchili. Andrew knows it. Which is it? Verchili. Verchili is the new genus for the acacia. Well done, Andrew. You know, these young people, they always catch on earlier. Another thing that I'm busy looking for at the moment while we're busy walking through here today is I'd really like to show you a Polyrhynchus ant nest. I have a theory that Polyrhynchus ants are raiders. This particular species that I'm looking for is a raiding ant. And by raiding I mean is a army ant or a matabele ant. It means that they move into an area, they set up their nests, and then they raid the area for food, for forage. And when it's all done, or those animals that they're feeding on close up their nests and their whatever, their homes, they move on and they go and find something else. And I have a theory, I've just seen 1 or 2 nests over the last couple of weeks and the last couple of months that strongly suggest that these ants are raiders and not sedentary ants, or ants that just have a nest that they keep forever. Now you might note that we're walking quite nonchalantly through the bush over here, myself and Andrew. That's not the case. We're actually walking quite carefully, and I'm constantly scanning, and I'm scanning in quadrants. I'm scanning from right to left is my habit, and I'm scanning from right to left, from far to close, and then I'm scanning far again. So I'm scanning from right to left, far, middle, close, and I'm looking in the shade of trees where I've personally seen, and in bush like this, the thing that you got to watch out for is obviously buffalo and lion. Leopard you don't have to worry too much about. In my experience, leopard, you see them way too late. They dash out of cover right at your feet, make a big noise, give you a big fright, and then run away. And obviously elephant, which hopefully will make a noise. In this type of bush is just way too thick for elephant to be in without making a noise. But what we want to try and do is have a look at this bush in front of me. You'll see how difficult it is to actually see through that bush. Now anything could be on the other side of that. So you'll notice that I will very rarely walk directly up to a bush like this. I'll actually walk around a bush like this so that I can see what's on the other side. I'm also using all the senses that I have at the moment, and I primarily enjoy using my ears as well as my eyes, with my ears probably giving me the most luck. Now, while myself and Andrew walk through here and see what is lying on the other side of this thicket, we are going to send you back to James. I'm sure he's got an update for you about what he's been doing. So we'll catch you in a little bit. Don't go anywhere.
Right, well, we're almost on Arathusa. Not quite. We've been driving very slowly, enjoying this very pleasant afternoon, and I believe Steph is going to find you a cane rat nest. Now, I have seen cane rats once or twice in my time, not often, and he was threatening to show me that cane rat nest the other day, and we didn't get round to it, so I'm a bit jealous of that. So we're just about to hit Arathusa, but before we hit Arathusa, let's just have a quick look at this herd of impalas over here. The little herd, nursery herd, what is soon to be a nursery herd of impala. It isn't a nursery herd just yet because the lambs haven't been born, and it's not long now before they will be. All lovely colours in the light. Still I wait for one of our astute viewers to tell me why on earth it should be that impala are that colour, because I don't believe that it's for camouflage. I don't think they look camouflaged at all. So I think it's very interesting. So if anybody would like to forward me some kind of a solution to my quandary as to why on earth an impala should be a rich chestnut colour when they could be grey like a water buck or a like those pig things, a water bug or a warthog. Because if you look at them now, the most obvious thing is that very rich red colour. In Afrikaans they call the rooibok, which means red buck. They are so splendid. There's a young male with his horns, and an older one in the background with his larger horns, of course. And an interesting theory behind the black stripes that are on their bottoms, that they tend to get hotter because black is a conductor of heat more so than any other colour. They tend to become hotter than the rest of the fur, and so the ticks and flies are attracted to that heat, and then the tail, as you can see swishing there, swishes the parasites off those black spots, and that helps to keep them free of parasites. And we have lots of questions recently about ticks and parasites and different possible diseases that you can catch from them, and during the summer months, of course, that's a very important thing that we have to watch out for. Ticks and parasites, not any really dire things that you can get from them out here as human beings. You do get tick bite fever, of course, but that's it's relatively mild. It's 3 days or so of feeling a bit miff, and then you can have some antibiotics and you'll be right. So that's what we have to watch out for. But of course the ticks carry various other little things, little bits and pieces that will eventually wear down the immune system, and so there's extensive parasite resistance amongst many of the animals here. And one of them in the impala is a special tooth. Now just watch that female there. Let's see if she does what I think she's going to do. Come on, old girl. Don't let me down. That's it. Almost there. No, she didn't do it. Right, so they've got a longer tooth in the bottom jaw. That's called a grooming tooth, and the grooming tooth is slightly loose. And what they use that for is to pull, again, ticks off the side of the body. And you'll see them quite often just turning their heads and having a scrape, turning their heads and having a scrape. Obviously just not these. There we go. Phew. What a total idiot. And you'll see them doing that very often. It's a little scrape with that special tooth. Peaceful watching a little herd of impala walking through the woodland like this. And we're watching some impala, and obviously one of the major predators that they have to watch out for are lions. And we were chatting briefly about the possible coalition of Junior, the Nkuhuma lion aged 3.5 years, and the possibly 2.5-year-old, probably slightly younger than that, males of the Salala pride, and them forming a coalition. And Barbara, you want to know at what age are they kicked out of the pride? It's normally around 3.5, sometimes 3. So the Salalas are sort of well within their pride. They're not about to be thrown out. Junior should have been tossed out ages ago, and it's a mystery to me why he hasn't been, why the Matimbas didn't throw him out. And I think that he's now back with the Nkuhuma pride simply because the Birminghams haven't been here now, Brian, what, for a month or so? Probably about a month since they came onto Djuma. Well, they were nearly on Twin Dams Road about 3 or 4 days ago, but they've since gone back south again. Possibly because the Matimbas are around that area and they're still trying to chase them off. But this has been a real vacuum for male lions, and I think that's probably why Junior came back. So 3, 3.5, up to 4. 4 is late for a male to be thrown out of the pride. And you can see it. It's as soon as they reach sexual maturity, they start to try and mate with other members of the pride, and that's obviously when the males toss them out. They don't like the competition, and it's just, well, it's not ideal for genetics when you have that kind of inbreeding. But with the lions, as we've said before, apparently up to 6 generations of inbreeding can happen without any kind of manifestation of defects in the lions. I'm not convinced myself that 6 generations, maybe 3 or 4, but 6 generations is a lot. That's very close breeding, that, and will definitely narrow the gene pool of an area. And that's why I say I think it's very important that if Junior and the Salalas do manage to hook up and make a nice coalition, I think it's important that they disappear and go somewhere else, maybe into Kruger, maybe north into the Timbavati, Mike, I'm just going to wait for this vehicle to go past us here. Mike, the reason the Nkuhuma pride won't chase him off is because they don't really mind having him around. Well, it's that they don't mind, and B, he's a big male, so they can't really chase him. If he doesn't want to go, he won't go. He's like a recalcitrant 22-year-old who won't leave home. He eats all the food. He does help a little bit with the hunting, so it's like he has a small job. But I mean, they don't really mind having him about. He dominates at the kills, but he will help pull his weight a little bit at the kills, so he does eat. And they don't register any kind of ill effect of having inbreeding. To them, it doesn't make any difference whether they mate with their brothers or sons or anything like that. It doesn't make a difference. So that's why they won't chase him out. The males chase him out because they don't want the competition. Good one, Mike. Right, here we go, crossing the Great Divide to Arathusa. I'm just going to get an update on the radio as to what's going on. Cedric, do you copy, Cedric? Afternoon, said. Any updates on Arathusa this afternoon? Okay, copy, thanks very much. Sorry, what was that location? Okay, copy, thanks very much. Right, so there were, Shadow apparently was seen. Now Shadow's a 9-year-old female leopard who we really enjoy seeing. And apparently she was seen on Arathusa today, just very briefly. Then they tried to find her again and didn't succeed. So what we'll do is head into the area where she was. Maybe we'll be lucky, but there'll be other entertaining things to see even if we aren't. Last time I was here we had that wonderful dog sighting of 10 or 11 puppies playing while the adults watched them from the shade. And the last thing we saw was them chasing scrub hare. Larry and Cecilia, thank you for your comments on the Impala coloration, and as amusing as they are, I'm not sure that they've shed any actual light on the situation. Larry, you say that their fur goes with their hooves. Thanks, Larry. And Cecilia, you say God ran out of grey paint. He may well have. I just suspect that he had a better idea than running out of grey paint. I don't know what it is. The best idea I can come up with, and for me it's quite unsatisfactory, is that lions and other animals that hunt them see in black and white, and perhaps that red colour isn't nearly as obvious to them as it is to us who see in colour. So Shadow was around about, well, just there's an area just near Arathusa, and there's a little pump and around the lodge there, so we'll head towards there and we'll maybe see that little hippo at the dam. We'll see what else we can find too. There have been some elephants around, which was nice, but otherwise no other update on Arathusa at this stage. Clearing coming up over here. Now yesterday evening we were watching a baboon spider in camp, and Steph put it on his hand and crawled up his arm and onto his shoulder, and I said Tara and Louise were watching, and I said, you know, these spiders can put them on your hands, they won't bite you. It then took 3 steps towards my hand, and I made a rather rapid movement away from it, and Steph took it onto his hand and then onto his shoulder, and he's got a spider to show you now. So we'll go to him and I'll keep you updated next time I see you.
Link 3. Look what we found you. We found a kite spider for you. Now, these little kite spiders are quite common on game paths, and that's what we're busy walking on at the moment, is we're walking on a game path. And for one, game paths cut through the area, but they also make fantastic channels for wind. And carried on the wind are insects. And of course, where you find insects, you find these little spiders. And this is one of these little spiders that you do find out here. And have a look at this guy. It's an orb web spider. So they spin an orb, which is circular spider web that lies perpendicular to the ground, so it catches flying insects. Here, have a look at this. Let me move the bush so that you can see why they call it a kite spider. And it's because it has this square body shape. You see it there, Andrew? Just going to give us a second over there. You can see white on the top with some red layers. One of the most bizarre of the spiders in terms of body shape. I really couldn't tell you why they have this massively overdeveloped abdomen. Only thing that I could think that it is, it's a way for the spider to stay hidden, make it look like a piece of bird dung or something else, just not a spider, and therefore it doesn't get preyed on by other animals. Now what you can see is actually she is actually collecting some web, and she's actually cut the web. Oh no, she hasn't. What she's done, which is actually quite amazing, that's incredible, she's actually collected a bunch of silk, and what that silk did was act as a massive spring, and she's let the spring go, and it's increased the length of this particular line here by probably about an inch. That's amazing. I've never seen that before. And what that very useful bit of information tells me is that this spider can catch quite big things, because basically that was tension, like a spring. It allowed the web to expand as something big hit it and take up the force of that flying insect, and then obviously entrap it in the silk. Now I'm going to show you something quite interesting, Andrew. If you can come up to her web here, you can see it's not completely round. If we can get it over here. Can you, here Andrew, up a bit more. You might have to go into the sun. Excuse me, just trying to direct Andrew over here. He's battling to find it in the viewfinder of his camera where I can actually see it quite well. No, it's okay. If we can't see it, we can't see it. That is a kite spider then. So let's just say goodbye to the kite spider, and we'll find you a web that I can show you. And cheers, little girl. Enjoy catching some insects. I'm not going to break your web, and I'm not going to disturb you. I'm going to go under this actually at the moment. There we go. Leave her web intact so we can carry on with our day. You can see we've come into this open clearing now where we are, and this open clearing is here because it has quite a lot of runoff. And obviously with runoff you get a lot of water and it's waterlogged, and you can't actually grow anything on these areas. So what you for that is because it's waterlogged. Trees don't like waterlogged soil, and grasses will grow on waterlogged soil, but only very specific grasses will grow on waterlogged soil. You usually get these sedges that grow out here, and this is one of them. And I'm hoping that when I smell this, ooh, the wild basil, they're quite a hairy little leaf. It is very similar to cassis, licorice, a very strong when it's young, like the smell of licorice. Now, traditionally, this plant has lots of insect repellent. In particular, flies do not enjoy the smell. And you will notice in pictures of our grandparents when they used to cook meat, but without the joys of
Hello everyone, sorry you lost Steffi there. I think he's in a rather difficult area for the bushwalking backpack. We are now in the drainage line system near about Arathusa Dam, where the pump house is, and it was around that little pump house that they saw shadow this morning. So we're looking through the drainage lines in the deep shade, in the tree boughs, to see if she something is in there. Not a big hoister is our shadow. Check for tracks, of course. So we might be lucky around here. I used the term bough the other day for a tree, and we found karula, and I said there's karula in the leafy boughs of a tree. And a lot of people seem to think that I said bough of the tree. A bough, of course, is a branch, not a digestive system. And I think it's quite a nice word, and somebody accused me of using a word that hadn't been used since 1654, which I think was a little mean. Here is kind of good leopard country, thick bush, nice shade. Of course, the leopard's coat is perfectly coloured for them to be in the dappled light. We're going to spend all afternoon looking around here. There were kind of dim reports of shadow, they weren't particularly encouraging. So we'll look around for a while and then we'll head back towards Djuma. There's quite a lot of elephant activity there at the moment. Check the roads. And of course the roads now, the rain is an interesting thing. First thing it does, of course, is to wash away the tracks on the roads, and the second thing it does is to then, it makes them soft. So if animals walk straight over the rain, then they leave quite obvious tracks. But a little bit after that, if there's a bit of sun, they tend to form the water and the moist soil tends to form a crust on top, and then animals don't leave any tracks at all. So something light, like a leopard, would hardly leave a sign. Now, I was saying a little bit earlier that there seems to be a dearth of lion smell and activity around Djuma, and I said that we've had rain and we haven't seen the lions marking their territory. And Ivy in New Jersey, as you say, or as you've asked, and you are absolutely correct, what happens is after rain, lions and leopards and other territorial marking animals will certainly go and remark their territories, because rain does wash the scent off. And so often you find, if there's an obvious path that a leopard will follow, you'll often find them on those paths after rain. And what's so interesting about the rain that we've had in the last little while is that it hasn't encouraged the Birminghams to come up north and remark their territory, and nor has it encouraged the Kahuma pride to come further south and mark their territory again. So I think it's rather odd. Ivy, so you're absolutely correct. All the way in New Jersey, you completely correctly predicted the lion leopard behavior. Smelling an odd smell, and then I realized what it was. It's thatch. It's old thatching grass that they put in the ground here on eroded areas, and it just helps to hold the water and the soil together when the wet season comes. So no sign of shadow yet, but we're quite close to the Arathusa Dam, so let's go have a look around there now, and then we'll come back past here. Steph has found something else interesting to show you. For the cooking enthusiasts, you'll like this one. I'll see you just now.
Alright, now myself and Andrew came walking down this elephant path after we were with that spider that you saw us with just now, and we came out onto this clearing. Now this clearing is actually here because it's waterlogged, And waterlogged means that trees can't grow on it, they refuse to grow on it, and grasses find it very difficult to grow on it. But you do find some forbs and some sedges that grow in these open areas. And I'm surrounded by a couple of my favorites at the moment. One of my favorites of the two is this little guy here. It's called Osmum canum. And if I were to pick it and smell it and describe the smell to you, it is the most intense licorice smell that you've ever smelt in your life. Like a really sharp, lovely, deep licorice smell. Now this osmum has been used in this area as an insect repellent for centuries. Flies in particular hate this plant. And what you'll find is local Shangaan ladies and Shangaan men picking a plant just like this, a bunch of them together, tying it with a string and then hanging it above two things. The morbid of the two things is they hang it above dead bodies. Obviously there are very, very few morgues here and people still die. They'll hang bunches of these plants above a body to deter flies. But the use that I like it for is when you are preparing meat. So you have bunches of these that are hung up in your kitchen at intervals, and they will deter flies from coming into your kitchen and landing on your things. Now I remember distinctly my grandmother having bunches of plants that she bought from the grocer, and I remember her hanging up these in her kitchen. I remember as a boy, I don't know if it was this species, although it could very well be, but the most licoricey, awesome smell. And Lou in FC has just asked us to bring some back for our kitchen in the DRC, which I think I might actually do. Oh, it is a fantastic smell. Anyway, enough of my herb garden. Let's carry on going, see what's down this path. Now stopping is important when we're walking like we do, and the reason is so that we can listen to the bush around us. Now while I'm yakking, I'm also not listening to the bush around us. And so what we're going to do is link through to James, who's got some hippo at Arathusa, and we'll catch up with you in a bit.
So there is one of the hippo at Arathusa Dam. Now that's definitely not a newborn hippo by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a youngster. And oh, there's the rest of the pod I can see just behind this island. Let's just go a little bit further along, see if we can't get a look at the tiny one. Now this is quite interesting to me. I definitely don't see a tiny little one, but it might be that it's just under the water with its little nose sticking up. That's not a newborn, but it's a very cute little fellow, isn't it? Wonderful. And he's eating bits and pieces of water vegetation, and there's some apparently our zoomies are saying that the tiny hippo is behind the mother hippo.
Where's the mother hippo?
Oh, there's another hippo there, just in front of us there. Maybe zoom in on her. That's the only other hippo that we can see from where we're sitting. Oh, there we go. Behind that one, apparently the baby hippo is behind that one. So thank you to all of you for your updates on the camera. Cecilia, apparently you've seen a documentary where little hippos are lifted out of the water by their mothers, and you want to know if that's true. Yes, it absolutely can happen, and sometimes they will lift them up so that they can breathe nicely. but not always the case. It's not always necessary, but remember, a hippo is not a very good swimmer, so they tend to chasing the bird. They tend to jump up when they breathe. So in deeper water, they don't sort of float to the surface. It's a bit like you in the pool. You've got quite a lot of buoyancy, so if you sink to the bottom, you can jump up and breathe and then sink down again, and that's basically what they do. The little chap is attacking the jacanas there, who look completely unfazed by him. And that wide mouth opening is a very typical behavior of a hippo that's showing his territoriality. And obviously a little hippo like that's not being territorial, but he's possibly just trying to show that he's a big tough fellow, and one day he'll be something to watch out for. Very sweet. I am keeping an eye on the other one. And those of you who've been watching this tiny little baby hippo, which Brian and I cannot see from where we are sitting, you say that its total length is smaller than the mother's head. That is really, really tiny, isn't it? I'm hoping that she might move, get into a position where we can see the little one, but at the moment she isn't. There's quite a lot going on at the dam, and so while we're here, we're going to have a look over there to the left of where your screen is, and there are some buffalo and there are also some Egyptian geese, and the geese have got a little family with them of goslings that are almost at adulthood, and I think they're probably about a month and a half to 2 months old, maybe even younger than that, you know. They're the little goslings, and they're sort of juvenile goslings now, as opposed to at least they're sub-adult goslings as opposed to juvenile ones. They've done pretty well to keep all of them together. They will definitely lose a few during the course of a clutch, because a tiny gosling is obviously enormously vulnerable to all sorts of different kinds of predators. Isn't that sweet? They're all quite sweet. And then in the background, of course, we've got the buffalo. And those old bulls are very happily sitting here in what is turning into a rather beautiful afternoon. Oh, let's quickly go across to Steph. He's got a fascinating reptile to show you. We'll stay here.
3, 2, 1. We've just come to the most epic tamboti tree that I think I've seen in a long time. And have a look what you're looking at over there, if Andrew still got him, is a male blue-headed tree agama in full breeding colors. I mean, can you see him still, Andrew? So right at the top of the tree, he's busy watching me with a beady eye, but have a look at that blue head, that purple underneath his cheeks. There he comes now. You should get a full view of him now. And isn't it just the most amazing thing? I mean, not only is this tree just an absolute grandfather of a tamboti tree, but on it is this agama. They're quite aggressive lizards. They will keep other lizards away. This is his tree. He'll forage around this tree, in actual fact, for his food, and he will try and get a mate. Now have a look at that. He's just coming to see me. This time of the year, they're so full of hormones and things looking for girls that I have no doubt that there he goes. Did you see him displaying at me? He's busy shaking his head at me. That's what they do when they display. You see if I can get him to do it again. Oh, he is fantastic. Now, they'll lose a little bit of their color as the year wears on. They will lay their eggs once the female has been enticed by his beautiful colors. They will mate, and she will lay some eggs which incubate at the base of this tree for about a year. Most lizards actually incubate or have their eggs incubated for about a year. And please excuse me there, I didn't even tell you how big he is. He's probably about a foot, just less than a foot, 30 centimeters or so long. So a good sized lizard, one of the bigger lizards that we found out here, to be honest. Absolutely fantastic. See, he's obviously, I'm standing on this side of the tree and he's allowing Andrew to come close. No doubt looking at Andrew's aerial with interest. Now they're carnivorous. They will hunt insects around the tree. I think they're carnivorous in actual fact. And all around us, the seeds of this tamboti tree are busy jumping. It's jumping bean season. And although most of this tree's seeds have actually fallen already, I'm still hearing at the back of the tree these seeds jumping. I'm not seeing any jump at the moment. Side of them, a worm. And that worm. But before I go into that, Andrew's having fun with this. We have to film him. I mean, look how close he is.
And various other bits of water vegetation here. He's having an absolute whale of a time. Now, while you were gone, the big one in the middle, which we'll show you now, there's a huge hippopotamus there in the middle. While you were gone here, the two of them actually, he or she made a kind of grunting noise, and the little one immediately left his patch on the side of the dam and started heading over to the adults. But you can see they're just having a whale of a time. And you'll read that hippopotamus eat a lot of grass, which they do certainly, and they clearly also eat quite a lot of water vegetation. They do not eat fish. Now, for those of you who have perhaps just joined us in the last little while, there was a time when we were only seeing one hippo, and that was the anachronously named Bob, the Bachelor of Biffle's Hook. Now, he then had a friend, and she was termed Daisy, Princess Daisy, by little Gracie, aged 8, in Ohio. Now, Gracie, you want to know if Bob and Daisy are here and if that's their baby. Gracie, we're a long way from where Bob used to live, and I think he might actually still live there with a whole lot of other hippos now, but that's quite a long way from where we are. So no, Gracie, I don't think this is Bob and Daisy. I think this is a whole lot of different hippos. So you can pick a name for them if you want. And what you can also see is that there's a little one. There's the big cow over there, and she's got a little baby which we can't see, but you might be able to see if you look at the Arathusa dam camera. And if you can see that little one there, why don't you try and choose a name for it? See if you can find a nice name for the new young hippo that was born a few days ago. Now, I mean, one of the things about this dam which is perhaps it's not disturbing, but it's not a natural dam. So there's obviously a great big wall at the one side of it, which you can have a look at. And Marissa, you want to know, is this dam pumped? And it is. I mean, it's definitely drying. I don't know if it's pumped so much as just the dam. So there's the wall there, which stops the water going down the drainage line, and I don't know if it's pumped. I think it might be, because the drainage line that it kind of stops up is not a great big river. So it's well possible that they do pump a bit of water into it, but I'm not really sure. I couldn't tell you. I think they maybe pump a bit of water into it. I mean, it's a massive expanse of water, and for this tiny little drainage line to feed it, I'm just not sure whether that would be possible. Now, on the top of the dam wall, which we were speaking about, are a whole lot of waterbuck. It's all happening here at Arathusa Dam, and they are probably coming down to have a bit of a drink. I don't know if you can pick up that slightly disturbing sound of what seems like a dentist's drill. It is just a little bit of repair work going on at Arathusa. So sorry about that, but there's just so much wildlife here that it's worth hanging around for it, I think. Beautiful. Look at them coming down to drink. And again, I haven't yet to see a crocodile here, but there definitely have been crocodiles here. I know that Sean and Ryan have both told me that there have been plenty of crocodiles here, so you never know. Look how many waterbuck there are. That's the hippo calling. Just keep an eye on that cow and see if her baby doesn't emerge. I think you've got a better angle from the other side there with the damn camera. Then some information from Mark that there was a crocodile seen at Sydney's dam. That's also well possible. I certainly didn't see it when we were last there, but it's quite possible that there was a crocodile around there at some stage. Crocodiles are sneaky things, and they move big distances. Very large distances, and much larger distances than we think they're capable of. They can move up to sort of 50 kilometers if they have to get from water point to water point. So just because a crocodile isn't in a particular piece of water one day certainly doesn't mean that that crocodile won't be there the next day. So you would never find me swimming heartily across this dam. That is a massive herd of waterbuck. That's the biggest herd of waterbuck I've ever seen. Let's have a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I count 20 or so. That is a vast herd. It's funny, you know, we drive around a lot and we look frantically for different things, and so often when you just sit for a while, things just occur, things happen. And that's a bit like what's happening now. Ooh, what is that? What is that bird? I think it's a Wahlberg's eagle. It is a Wahlberg's eagle. You can see how thin its tail is. And it's causing great consternation as it flies over here. You might be able to hear the blacksmith plubbers calling. And you can see it's not very smooth flight, and that's because it's probably a little bit windy up there. There is still that southeasterly breeze blowing. Beautiful. Here he comes. Wow. So that's a Wahlberg's eagle, and he's putting on quite a beautiful display for us. He or she, could be a she, just as easily. But you see how thin the tail is? That's very diagnostic. Tail just seems really long. Longer than I remember them being, but let's see what else it could be. I'm pretty sure that's a Wahlberg's eagle. Isn't it lovely to watch a bird fly like that? And I tell you what, if you ever want a bit of peace in your life, go outside, find a raptor like that soaring and flying around in the silence, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. Now, while we're sitting here, young Gracie has come back to us with a name for the hippo, and Gracie would like to call this hippo Lily. And Lily, for those of you who don't know, Gracie is part of a group of children in Ohio at the Dayton Children's Hospital, and they lost one of their own a little while back, and her name was Lily, and she used to watch, and I think that Lily is an excellent name. for us to call this little hippo. So Gracie, Lily it is, and I'm sure your friend will be very happy to know that we've named a hippo after her wherever she's watching us from. Great idea. So I can't see the little one, so I think what we'll do is probably start to move on from here. Let's move on from here and see what else we can see. And Diane, absolutely, this is the same waterbuck family that you see at Arathusa. They are at Arathusa, and I haven't seen I haven't seen them around here in quite this number before, but yes, we do see quite a few around here. Alright, let's leave now. There seems to be some swimming going on in the lodge, which is great fun. Not entirely a wilderness activity that you need to share though. So let's press on a bit, and there's a lovely guinea fowl just up ahead, and just a gorgeous grey sky starting to turn that lovely golden grey colour as the sun sets a little bit behind us. Now we have lots and lots of questions about the great dangers of the bush. Tony in Holland, well, in fact, just before we leave this area, let's show you the buffalo. And I'll tell you why we'll show you the buffalo. Tony in Holland, you say, why are hippo known as the most dangerous animals in the bush? And there, as you're looking, there is a little herd of bachelor bulls, and they're also known as extremely dangerous in the bush. Tony, oh my goodness, sorry Tony, I'm going to get back to you. Brian, do you see what I see?
I don't know. I see guinea fowl.
What do you see in front of the guinea fowl? Foul bird. There's an Indian myna, everybody. That's an exotic species. It has a friend here. Now, were we to tell the Sabi Sands about that, they would arrive with a pellet gun in short order. So that's an invasive bird. It was brought out here. It has no place in the wild here because it's a highly effective competitor to local birds, like a sort of starling type bird, and they've taken over many areas of the cities. It originally comes from the Asian subcontinent. Not so good. Anyway, let us leave that invader to itself and move on to happier topics. Well, necessarily happier topics. Tony, you want to know why it is that hippo are known as the most dangerous animals in the bush. Some of you are going to get a bit sick and tired of me banging on about this, but Tony, there are no animals out here that are inherently dangerous. There are animals that become potentially dangerous when they are threatened. Now, a hippo is just, once you understand that, you kind of understand what's going on. And hippo are extremely easily threatened because they're so vulnerable. They've got to have water, and so if they feel like they can't get to their water, or that their water source is being threatened at all, they can become very aggressive and very upset. And so that's what you've got to watch out for. So they're not inherently dangerous. If you leave them alone, you don't see them coming flying out of the water at us. If we came past here on foot, they might get up and look. They're certainly, or highly unlikely, that they would come flying out of the water at us. Let's just stop and have a look at these gorgeous, gorgeous helmeted guinea fowl. Look at that blue colour on their heads in the sun. Isn't that wonderful? I think they're one of the most beautiful birds we get here. So Tony, same thing with the buffalo. A buffalo, if you understand what threatens it, it's threatened if you, hunters will tell you that they're the most dangerous. Well, I'm not surprised. You're trying to shoot an animal, it will inevitably become irritated with you, and if you don't shoot it properly, then it will probably flatten you. But, in the absence of that kind of threat, a buffalo bull is not a particularly dangerous animal at all. As long as it's not cornered, you don't give it a fright, they're fine. And the same thing goes for the hippo. So Tony, that's why hippo are known as the most dangerous. They do unfortunately kill probably more people in Africa than any other mammal does, but that's not a lot of people. You know, far more people are probably killed by lightning strikes or certainly by car accidents. And I often reference this statistic that, you know, around the world, only about 5 or 6 people are killed by sharks. Of 7 billion, 5 or 6 are killed by sharks every year. That is less than something like 20,000 people a year die falling out of their beds, and more than 100 are killed by your common variety cow or cattle. So, you know, it's the same thing. Hippo are considered terribly dangerous, but they don't really kill that many people. They kill fewer people than cows. Obviously there are more cows than there are hippo, but it just gives you an idea that yes, while they can be easily threatened, they don't rush around murdering people at will. Right, so we're still on our little hunt for Shadow, hoping we might spot her. So a fascinating question. I'm afraid my radio is breaking up. So just to the final control, I did get the question, just not the name. Petrichor, of course, is a smell, beautiful smell out here. I've got it now. That occurs after rain. And Mike, you want to know what other smells we get here. And for those of you who don't know, petrichor is the smell that comes off the earth after a sort of bout of rain. It's that kind of glorious smell that comes off the earth, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably bacteria that is released from the soil when rain comes. And Mike, you want to know what other smells there are after rain? Well, there's the moisture in the air. Certainly that smells, you've all smelled what rain smells like when it's coming and just after it's left, so that's one of the smells. And then I suppose what comes out is, you know, anything you wet tends to smell a bit stronger because I think the water vapor will mix with whatever is coming out of it. So if, for example, if you're in an area where there's elephant dung and there's been water, you'll smell a lovely kind of spicy scent that comes off the elephant dung if it's of sufficient age. And so everything just smells a little bit stronger after a bit of rain. What else would smell? Brian, can you think of anything that is brought out by the smell of rain? Dogs, yes, that's a very good point. The wild dogs definitely smell a lot more doggy after a bit of rain. That's a really good point. So if you see wild dogs after some rain, or if they've been through an area after rain, you can definitely smell them more quickly than you would before the rain. That's a great one. So this is roundabout apparently where Shadow was seen. But in the absence of tracks, we can't really track her, so it's a little bit hit and miss. Such a beautiful afternoon, if that doesn't matter.